Imagine that all of a sudden, humanity obtains immortality. Not by choice or gradual technology, but as a sudden change that affects everyone equally. At first, it would be exactly what millions had wished for over generations. A life without fear of aging, without the fear of losing the people we love, without the constant shadow of death reminding us that time is limited. The first hours would be filled with celebration. The media would speak of the greatest breakthrough in history, the streets would fill with people who are shocked and excited, and families would hug each other thinking that, finally, they could stay together forever. However, that initial joy would quickly fade, because the true dimension of immortality would begin to reveal itself little by little. In the following days, people would discover that although they no longer age and are no longer at risk of dying from natural causes, everything else remains the same. Obligations continue, human emotions remain, and everyday problems do not disappear. And that is where the first major psychological shock emerges. The romantic idea of living forever would collide with the reality that not all lives are perfect, not all people are satisfied with their situation, and not everyone desires an eternal existence. For those who have spent years in difficult routines, in jobs they do not enjoy, or in unequal systems, immortality would not be a blessing but an infinite extension of problems they do not know how to change. As the months pass, the world would begin to feel the first global consequences. Cities would fill rapidly. Governments would face a population growth that no longer stops, because no one dies. Resources, which were already a challenge before, would become insufficient even with the most advanced technology. Food, water, energy, and space would begin to run out alarmingly. Massive migrations would intensify, not due to war or natural disasters, but because millions of people would seek places where they could have a dignified life within this new eternal reality. Economies, designed for finite life cycles, would collapse one after another. Retirement would stop making sense. No one could retire if they were going to live for centuries, and financial systems would crumble under the weight of immortal populations that need to sustain themselves indefinitely. Companies would have to rethink everything. Contracts, careers, promotions, and salaries in a world where nobody leaves their position due to aging. But even if humanity managed to adapt to social, economic, and environmental challenges, a much deeper problem would remain: the human mind. Our brain is not designed to store centuries of memories, nor to face an existence without a natural ending. The perception of time would change completely. Decades could feel like weeks, and centuries would lose the emotional structure that we take for granted today. Relationships would become more complicated. Committing forever would no longer be a metaphor and would become immense pressure that is hard to sustain. With so many years ahead, many people would experience a progressive loss of identity because human personality is shaped by limits, by stages, by the passage of time, not by infinity. Life projects would feel empty because nothing would have urgency. Without a time limit, studying, working, learning, falling in love, or creating would lose a clear purpose. And when purpose disappears, so does much of the meaning of existence. Over the centuries, humanity would experience deep stagnation. Without death, there is no generational renewal, no new perspectives, no evolution. Society would remain frozen in a permanent state, where the same individuals live for centuries accumulating power, knowledge, and resources, while innovation declines. Science, culture, and technology would advance more slowly because human creativity also depends on urgency, on the passage of time, and on the need to solve problems before it is too late. Finally, after living hundreds or thousands of years, humanity would understand the deepest paradox of all. Without death, life loses its value. Unlimited time makes every moment insignificant. Decisions stop mattering because there will always be another opportunity, another millennium, another attempt. And then the unexpected truth would be revealed. The dream of immortality, the one that seemed perfect, would become a reminder that death, as feared as it is precisely what gives meaning to existence. Without an ending, a story stops being a story. Without limits, there is no purpose. And without the possibility of losing everything, nothing feels truly valuable. And that would leave us with one final question to reflect on. If everyone were immortal, which company do you think would go bankrupt immediately? Leave it in the comments.